Hey, everybody, and welcome back for another episode of The Overlay, a poker podcast brought to you by a CCG, Charitable Games Poker. What up, Brando?
CCG Charitable Games Poker. I like it.
Yeah, I'm making sure I buy a bunch of extra URLs because a player at CCG, who will go unnamed, Chris, said that he was going to buy every way possible because we did have a mistake on the website. The hosting, my credit card updated, and the expiration date was wrong. And then when they went to go renew the 5-year hosting subscription, it was gone. They're like declined.
I told you that was going to happen.
100%.
You were like, I think one of my credit cards changed. I'm
Yeah,
like,
and
well,
here's
that's
the best part.
Screw up all the auto pays.
I only did that. I only paid the 5 years in advance so I wouldn't forget about it. And then I forgot when the 5 years was up. And then, I forgot about it. So there was a good 3 hours that the thing was down. But the nice thing is about CCG and the players and the poker players, their dedication is, dude, I got 50 texts. Websites down.
I got 6.
Websites down. Chris texted me. He's like, have I been banned from the website already? And I was like, no, I don't. I'm like, if I could do that, you'd have gotten banned 8 years ago. But no, it was very helpful. And then I did it while on the golf course, which is a testamount. Testamount is a tantamount. What's the word I'm looking for there? Is that a word? Whatever. It just speaks to the
testimony.
I don't know. It speaks to the age in which that we are in. Is that I can update the website from a cell phone from the golf course in 12 minutes. It's the time it took me to walk from my drive to the green, which is great. It's
you
amazing.
Did it straight? You went sideways? That took a long walk, or
no? It was just I wedged up. I was close, and then I had to wait for everybody else to get on the green, and then in that time.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I'm good. At that particular hole.
So you hit perfectly. You said to wait for everybody else.
I was close, 8 feet for birdie. It was great. One of the best feelings in golf. I still made a par though.
I was about to say you definitely missed.
Yeah, did not make it. Today's episode, we are going to bang out another Beyond the Rule Book episode, which is always one of my favorite episodes because the good and the bad thing about poker players is there's a lot of stories being told. I mean, I feel like everybody thinks that every tournament I ever go to is like a live version of a podcast because you're just going to hear a bunch of bad beat stories. Oh, this happened to me here. Oh, did you hear what happened at such and such? Oh, ho, ho, ha, ha. This happened. Am I right or am I wrong, Brando?
You're pretty right.
I'm always right, but I like to hear you confirm it every now and again. So Beyond the Rulebook, just some wild tales of tournament directors' issues and problems and just the things that happen in a tournament. So we won't say where it was because I don't want to condemn anyone or anything, but it was a mid-level tour series. Is that a word?
That is a word.
Yeah, it's like a mid-level poker tour, one of the regional ones. And in this instance, to make it easy, because Brandon and I talked before the podcast, and he's like, I think this is a little confusing. And the guy who told me the story had to tell me 5 times before I could get all the information out, which is perfect tournament director explanation is that you're going to have to get 5 explanations and try to Encyclopedia Brown this together to figure out what actually happened because it's the most difficult thing on the planet. But just for sake of the podcast, we're going to discuss this kind of rule, and it might be something that I think everyone's experienced. A player, we won't say who or what, we won't identify them as player A, just a player raises.
Mm-hmm.
Player later in line goes all in. The next person, player 3 in this instance, asks the dealer, what is the raise amount, and is it enough to open the betting for the original bettor, the OB? Is that how you do that? OGOB?
No, I think it's raise first. It's RFI these days. Or
I don't say that. So the original bettor, he asks, is the action reopened? Into asking, does that original person who raised, do they get an option to re-raise? Because we all know if the raise is not enough to constitute a raise, you can kind of sneak in on a pot where the original guy can't defend off anybody or isolate because of the way the math works out, correct?
Yeah.
Correct. So player 3 is oh, yeah, it's 23,000 to call, and 24 seems to be where the number is. So, that's awesome. I call 23, and then it was boom, boom, 2 other people called, we'll say, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, like call.
It's like, yeah, so like
All contingent on the fact that the action's closed.
Action is closed, and all the original bettor can do is just call the difference, which obviously that person's going to do because there's no instance on the planet that they are going to fold that any two cards at that point. And then the original bettor's like, ha, no, that is not true. The actual reopening math is this. Bop, 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 bop. He shows his work, and lo and behold, the floor gets called. And then I think the floor's decision was that the action was reopened, correct?
Yeah.
Right. What went wrong here, Brandon? What went wrong in the poker players' debacle of what happened here? I want to hear your take on the story.
They trusted the dealer.
They trusted the dealer.
Yeah.
Poker is an individual sport. I will give it the fact that it is a sport, but it is an individual sport, and it is up to the player always. And sometimes it sucks. This is a perfect example of one of the shittier parts of it is your own responsibility. It's your responsibility. You screwed up because you trusted the dealer. You didn't do your own math, and then now you know. Oh no! I just wasted $23,000 because then the original bettor's like, I'm all in for $400,000. I don't know what the actual number was, but like it was a massive amount. Put everybody else all in. It doesn't matter, even if it's another 50, 60, 70,000. Like we all called in that middle part of the field, or at the table, because
knowing they couldn't get squeezed out.
Knowing they couldn't get squeezed, right? Because nobody. It's a whole different option if like. I know I'm calling this all in with another person in the hand. Like, you got to know damn well there's a chance that person is going to jam it on top of them, right? Isolate, get the dead money in there, and everybody loves dead money. But
for sure. There's just, that original raiser that raises, there's a lot of hands that he would choose to ISO with.
Mm-hmm.
8s, 9s, 10s, ace, king, ace, queen, ace, jack suited. You know what I mean? Like,
all of those.
Well, if these guys all had better than me, they would have raised themselves.
Correct.
But they tried to get in with jack 10 suited and pocket 4s and ace 9 suited, and because it's cheap. And then,
relatively
so all of a sudden, queen,
to the pot. Yeah, I know what you mean.
All of a sudden, queen, jack suited for whatever, 4 bigs seems great. Queen, jack suited for 14 or 24 or 40 life doesn't seem great at all. Yeah,
against 3 other players, not exciting.
It completely changes the entire outlook of your hand, of the whole hand.
So is there ever an instance in that particular scenario where the tournament director comes over and obviously they call floor, hey, this is bullshit, I asked the dealer, this person says the action was not reopened. I made my decision based on the fact that the action was closed per the dealer, the person who's supposed to be in charge of the entire freaking table said, no, action's closed. And then it gets all the way around to the original bettor who again goes, no, that's not the case. Here's why. Shows the math and everybody goes, oh yeah, no, that math checks out. That's right. Tournament director is going to say what, Brando?
Play stands, baby. Guys allowed to rejam.
We can't not take his action away, and we can't back it up and say, well, you only called based on these false principles. You don't get your money back. Once chips go in the pot, they ain't ever coming back out unless you win the hand. Correct?
Correct.
That's actually probably the number one rule in poker. It shouldn't be that the tournament director can do whatever it is in the for the right of the game kind of thing. What's that first rule? To
keep the integrity of the game.
There we go, integrity. Couldn't think of that word. That the tournament director can make any decision based on keeping the integrity of the game or protecting the integrity of the game. This is really not about the integrity of the game. This is about you guys did bad math. Then you asked a person, you phoned a friend that turned out to be wrong. It would be like being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, me calling you and be like, Brandon, who was the president in 1981? And you're like, Richard Nixon. And I was like, hey, Richard Nixon. And they're like, no, you're wrong. I'd be like, oh, wait, no, I'd like a redo. My phone a friend guy was wrong, and I'd like to change my answer, please. They don't like
it's just one of those things where, like, the player thinks they're doing the right thing by asking the dealer, but
you really
know the rules and do the math yourself. It's never that hard.
You have to. And what does constitute a raise? So let's make the math easy. Blinds are 1,000, 2,000. I open. All right, I'm under the gun. I open 6,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the next person in line goes all in. How much can they go all in for before it's actually considered a raise? In which case, I'm allowed to raise again, or
9,999.
Yeah, can you do the math real fast more than just telling us what it is?
Yeah.
Why is that answer?
Because they raised 4K, so you have to raise 4K more on top of that 4K. So if they went 2 to 6, the next legal raise would be 6 to 10. So if I jam for anything less than 10, the action's closed for that first guy.
Now,
so if I jam 8,100 and it goes call back to that guy that made it 6K, his options are fold or call 8,100, 2,100 more.
And I have two questions. One, why is that real? Like, why don't I get an option to raise again after this person?
Because you technically were the last person that raised.
And I'm not allowed to raise myself, correct?
Correct. You were the last person that made a legal raise. You were the one went from 2 to 6.
Where it gets funky and all-ins are concerned, do we do that 50% rule, meaning if I bet more than 50%?
No.
Okay, so when a player is all in, the all-in amount has to be the full amount of a raise. There is no, like, it's close to a raise or it's over 50%, so that's going to reopen it. It physically, in a tournament, needs to be the
no
actual
limit
number.
Hold'em, yes.
No limit hold'em, right. So it's 1,000, 2,000 blinds. I raise to 6, which is technically, like you said, a raise of 4,000. So the next legal raise is 10,000. If the player goes all in for 9,100, that's not a legal raise. The all-in's 9,100. Call. Gets back to this guy who made it 6K. His options are put in 3,100 in chips, which is the call, or fold. You don't get any other options. That's just it.
Correct.
Now, if the bet was 10,100 all in, and then 4 guys called, and it comes back to the original bettor, he can raise, correct?
Correct.
Because the line's 10,000. As soon as they make it 10,000 or more, that's you're able to raise. So know that, folks, when you're playing in a tournament, that if there's a bet and an all-in, and you are looking down at jacks or queens or shit, I don't know, ace-king, you got to be aware of the fact of, all right, was that a guy who originally raised, is he going to get an option to squeeze me out of this hand, and am I able and ready to go further? So you kind of have to look down the line a little bit and see where those cards are at, right? Does everybody already do that, or is that just me, like, giving stupid, like, when you play baseball, make sure you always run to first base after you get a hit?
I mean, usually people do it, but I mean, obviously it comes up a lot. I mean, if you have kings or aces, maybe you're the one that you want to just flat call because you know that guy has the option to reopen.
Using reverse psychology. I like that, Brando. Making the players feel good about themselves. All right, well, that was kind of an easy one. It sucks. It's one of the bad rules. I shouldn't say bad rules. It's one of the what players feel like is an unfair rule. If I ask the dealer and they give me bad information, shouldn't I be able to change? But that's not the case. Another bad instance is if the dealer mucks your cards, meaning if I'm sitting there and I'm not protecting my hand and the dealer just scoops up my hand and puts it in the muck, I don't get those cards back, right?
Yeah, that's another one that no, you don't get your cards back. And that's one that the floor gets called over. And you're really supposed to lose everything you have in the pot. You know, everything. You put all those chips in, it's all gone.
Your hand's dead. It's no longer a live hand. Whoever has hands left, they finish out the hand.
Meaning you bet 7,000, and then there's another guy, and it's on him, and whatever happens, and the dealer mucks your cards, you're supposed to lose that 7K and the whole pot and everything. Do not pass go. Do not collect 200. Right. I'm sorry that the dealer made that mistake. And I always make a sweetheart ruling where, if they put out the 7 and some guy raised them to 40,000, and in the meantime, their cards got mucked, I always give them the last wager back, where they lose less than everything. Correct. And then they're still mad. Like, what do you? I lose. They're mad at you. I lose. What do you mean I lose? I'm like, well, your two options are you lose 7,000 or you lose all of it.
Right.
I'm only letting you lose the 7,000.
Right.
I understand the dealer made a mistake. Like, I get it. You feel unfair that the dealer screwed up. There's nothing we can do about the dealer screwing up. That's over. All I can do is tell you how much you lose. But yeah, they always just get so frustrated with the floor. And it's just, it's just one of those ones where
it's a shitty rule.
Yeah, that's pretty much 95% the dealer's fault. But we got to go with what it is. Yep.
Doesn't matter.
Protect your hand at all costs.
You got to protect your own hand. And if not, yeah.
I will say it it's one of those things. I've never had my hand mucked.
I have only had my hand mucked one time, And I did the opposite. I just kept betting the whole way until I won the hand. And then the dealer said, okay, you win the hand. And I just didn't have a hand. I was like, cool, give me that pot. Everybody else was out. And the dealer was like, okay, you can have it. Yeah, that was in limit poker too, which is even harder to win the hand. It's not like I went all in. You got to limit bet that stuff. That's tough.
Bet one big bet and they all muck.
Big bet on the river. Everybody mucks their draws. Then I'm good. And the dealer's looking down like, where are my cards? I was like, you took them like 10 minutes ago, but I didn't want to say anything. And I got it through. All right, next question, Brandon. Here we go on Beyond the Rulebook for Brandon. Beyond the Rulebook with Brandon. I think I might just call that episode this. Angle shooting or not angle shooting? You're playing in a tournament, and there is a whale of a player playing in the tournament. He's on bullet number 4. He gets knocked out, and he's going for bullet number 5. Now, let's say this is, I won't put any precursors on it. Just that fact alone. So you got this player down card, and the player's already making his way. The whale, we'll call him. Moby Dick here is running back to the registration table to register again to get it back in so he can jam it all in blind and give somebody else another 20K in chips. Is it immoral, unjust? Is it an angle shoot to make sure you grab that player down card and run it over to the tournament director so there's a better possibility that you get that player back at your table? Angle shooting or good business or just don't kick sleeping dogs while they lie? If you don't,
I would go with
answer,
not angle, not angle shooting, but not good business.
Not angle. It's not angle shooting is more cheating or trying to cheat a player. You're not trying to cheat anybody.
This is what's right is right.
You're just like, I'd like a better chance to get this mop back at my table, and that's that.
Yeah, you're just being very
I got a card for you, sir. I will say one of the things that makes my skin crawl, and I think players should be more considerate of others, because at every single poker player out there, this is going to happen to. You get your aces, you get it all in good, you get cracked, and then what happens before I've even had a chance to see the pot go away from me? My hands are mucked. The dealer's getting ready to shuffle the next hand. I'm kind of pulling that. I'm trying to get that last word in or whatever the case is about my bad beat that I just took. I should be given a second, right? Like it's my right as a player. I paid for the right to be able to bitch internally for like, shoot a guy a dirty look, whatever the case is. How fast is it okay for a player, not a dealer, a player to yell, player down? I don't care at what point in the tournament you're in. How long do you have to give a player before you can say something about player down?
Well,
what's the
easy one for me? Never.
Yeah, don't say it.
Unlimited time. Nothing. Just don't say anything.
Never. Let the dealer do it.
It's not your job. It's not your place.
I like that. I like that.
You should just be more considerate. You should not even more considerate. You should just worry about the math on all ins, so you don't have to worry about the dealer giving you for me. Don't worry about
protect your hands so they don't get mucked.
Right. Make sure you get dealt a real hand. These are the things players just need to be worried about.
Oh, wow. Brandon, did something happen recently where a player did not notice that their hand was dealt to them incorrectly and they managed to get themselves all in and all the way through the board before they realized that the hand was incorrect?
That did happen.
Oh, tell us about it, Brando.
Okay.
I mean, I gave you the basis, but lead it in a little bit. You did. Give us the
Basically, we had a hand history at CCG, actually, where, a guy got dealt one card. He decided, I'm on tilt. I got to go. I want to gamble, whatever the case may be in this player A's head. He got dealt one card on the button, and then it got around to him, and he raised in the dark, and then got re-raised by the big blind. Got re-raised by the big blind, and then the button then re-raised again, and then the big blind went all in, and then the button called, and then we saw a flop, a turn in the river, and we went to showdown, and the button only had one card.
Button goes, whoops. The button who originally instigated all of the shenanigans that just took place goes, oh, I only have one card. What happens now? Bum, bum, bum. Next week on The Overlay. No, I'm not going to wait.
So now we're on to the river. There is multiple hundreds of dollars from each player in the pot.
Uh-huh.
One player is showing pocket queens.
Yep.
For queens and queens and whatever. There was a board pair, queens and fives. And the other player on the button shows one singular 7.
Which didn't make a pair, didn't make trips,
did not make anything.
Didn't make anything. I think you said that there were like the board paired with 7s. He didn't have anything. He had 7 high is what he had. But then at that point it was like, oh, I didn't have. This can't be a real hand because I didn't get all my cards.
Right. So what happened is the player just acted like he looked at his hand and then never looked at his hand and played the pot like he was doing it intentionally, but then he looked down and only had one card. To me, that is I don't get it.
He truthfully went all in blind.
Went all in dark.
Yeah, he didn't look at anything. And then that's great and all, but there was always the one risk, and it goes back to the original theme of today's episode. It is the player's responsibility you're going to have to take responsibility for yourself. So in this instance, he got it all in dark. He got another player to do it with him. They rip it out. Bing, bang, boom. Go all the way out. And what do you know? I only have one card. So at that point, it's like we are way too far gone here. Too much money's in the pot to just back this hand up. Your hand's just not a valid hand. You're out. He's the only player with the live hand. He wins. And it's unfortunate, and the player feels like they got screwed. But my question is always, did they get screwed? Because you listened to the dealer or you didn't look? It's not the dealer's fault. You're going to have to take responsibility for yourself. Or at least if you're going to go all in, first thing you got to do, check to make sure you got 2 cards.
Fake looking at your cards.
Or just pretend, just look to see if you have 2 cards. Like that's all.
And again, it's not a misdeal, guys, because it is the button. And we all know that sometimes you're flying around there, and we forget to give the button a second. If there's any player that's not going to have 2 cards,
it's the dealer.
It's going to be the button.
The actual dealer forgets to deal the last card, and it is what it is.
And usually it goes 0 to 2 players act on their hand before the button goes, "Hey, dealer," and he spreads out his cards like, "I only got one," and they'll be, "Oh, throw them a second one, and we're all good."
Yep, keep going.
And going back into the integrity of the game, it would be way more detrimentally unfair for the queens to back anything up.
Correct.
Like, as much as you want to say this guy got screwed because he got 1 card, throw away the 1 card guy. Just look at the queens.
Right.
He raised, he re-raised, he got it in, he won the hand. Now we're going to tell him that he doesn't win. Mm-hmm. It's just not right.
Let's make it even worse. Let's throw a whole nother thing on here. What if the guy had a 7 and the board came out 7-7 for ace 5, whatever. So now with just 1 card, he's got 3 7s, which beats the queens, right? Because the other player had pocket queens who actually looked at their hand. Is there any argument that you would award the pot to him with just 1 card? Because damn well, this is my problem that always happens, and it's something that I always try to ask people, because I don't really do this during the tournament. It's not like this is a question you can ask a player as a person who's in a floor position, which I know is a weird thing to talk about because most players are on the other side, but I just want you to feel the what it's like and what the floor people have to go through. I always ask people, would you be more or less upset if the hand had played out differently? And they're always like, no. But inevitably, it's always that they got knocked out of the tournament, and this is why they feel like they got screwed. Well, look, I asked the dealer. He told me that the blinds it was not eligible for a raise, but it turned out it was, and that's not fair. And then obviously you called and then got knocked out of the tournament. Well, yeah, but that wouldn't have happened if I wouldn't have called. It's like, well, it's like the butterfly effect here. We can't go backwards at any point. Like, you decided it. Your fate has been chosen. You've decided to move forward. Win or lose, it's not like I've ever had somebody say, hey, I tripled up on a hand, and it's bullshit, and I want to talk about it. That's never in my life. In 20 years of poker, has any person ever complained to me and said, I tripled up in a tournament, and I'm pissed. It's kind of funny because nobody ever says that. They always let it go. And you probably should be saying those things, because no matter who wins that hand, like, yeah, if you want to come up to me and say, hey, you know what, the dealer messed up, I understand. And then I never want to tell them and be like, oh, yeah, by the way, it's totally your responsibility. And it is. It's 100% the player's responsibility. The dealer mucked my cards. Sir, it's 100% your responsibility to protect your hand. Well, yeah, but he took them from me. Well, did he physically fight you for them with a knife? Did he throw them away at gunpoint?
Then we have a problem.
That's a much bigger deal. But that didn't happen. You just weren't paying attention. You got your cards mucked. Well, I got it all in, and we did it blind, and then we realized that I only had one card. You can't make me lose the hand when I didn't even get a full hand. Well, yeah. It is, because it's your responsibility. You're the player who went all in. You're the player who took this route, and then now you want to back it up and say that's unfair. If it, like, let's say they would have noticed, like, let's take that opportunity. Just so we know, before I went on my tangent, if the player had trips with just a single card, the outcome's the same. Queens are the only live hand. You can't win a pot with one card, in which case you still lose the hand. I don't care if you've got a royal flush with one card. You don't get to win the hand, correct?
Correct.
No matter what it is. At that point, it doesn't matter what the cards are. It's that he has a live hand. You do not. The player with the live hand is going to win the pot. Well, that's not fair. I don't have a live hand. Well, this is where we're back to Ken's rant. It's the player's responsibility to make sure that they have a real hand. Because I've seen it happen.
You put it in with one card.
You did that. I didn't do that.
Not the floor.
Right. Floor didn't screw that up. The dealer didn't screw that up. The player did that.
The dealer screwed up the hand, but that could be remedied with $0 lost.
And it's same purpose.
Everything over $0 lost with an illegal hand or an illegitimate hand, everything over $0 is your fault because you could have not put in any money. You could have got a second card. You could have, there's a million avenues to where the problem gets fixed.
You could have done it right. You could have done it like, let's say this was a tournament hand. I don't know how the same thing could happen, but let's just say it did. It's still really bad, and I still blame the person who has one card. But let's say same scenario happens. We go to the flop, and the dealer says, "All right, guys, turn them up." And the guy flips over queens, and the other guy goes, "Oh shit, I only got one card." Now we're back to that whole thing. Floor gets called over. What do? Well, theoretically, there's been way too much action, significant action. I mean, we've got two players all in. There's too much action here to go backwards. In that instance, I could see the one argument of going, so your hand's dead. This player wins the entire pot. You're now out of the tournament. Now, could a tournament director arguably say, all right, well, let's just back it up here, give everybody their money back and kind of start over? But then it's like, now the other guy's upset, and rightfully so. He'd be calling into the show going, hey, guys, Overlay, how are you? I was in a tournament the other day, and this is what happened to me. I got it all in with queens, and bam, guy looks down at one card, just gets it. Is that the integrity of the game? That the tournament director is trying to protect the person who managed to get himself all in, or herself. Let's be gender neutral here. That this person got themselves all in with one fucking card?
So here's my question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really have an answer for that.
Right on.
I mean,
these are
the guy's
questions.
out. I mean, the guy's out.
I would say in that instance, that player's just out.
So hear me out.
I couldn't find an argument to try to save that person's tournament life. I just don't feel like there's a way to do it.
I have an argument to save the person's life.
Oh, nice. Let's hear it.
If that person's on the button, you can't just be like, give me my second card.
Okay, I wanted you to mention this because I love that idea. Yes, you could argue that. But now here's the thing when you start doing wild scenarios like that, because we all know the top card of the deck is that player's card, right?
Only when that person's on the button.
Only in this very specific thing. So could you argue, be like, well, let's give him the top card of the deck and run it out? Well, then here's the problem.
Yes.
This happens, and then what's the next process of beyond the rule book here?
Well, obviously, that random hand beats the other guy, and
correct. And now the guy with queens comes over and he goes, "I got knocked out of the tournament, and this is why I'm pissed." And then you got to go down that route. That player, if that player was unhappy with that scenario, they need to make that aware and know and be like, "No, you are not ripping that flop, turn, and river until I get an answer to my question right now." What you can't do is let the cards run out, lose, and then go, this is bullshit, I don't like it. It's
because when the guy has 7 deuce and queens just win against 7 high, that guy doesn't say anything.
Yep. Nobody says anything. But now if the guy has 7 deuce...
that person with queens gets to like free roll the situation.
Correct.
It's either he wins the pot and says nothing or loses the pot and bitches.
So I think Beyond the Rulebook here 2.0 or Beyond the Rulebook Part 2, whatever I call it, or Beyond the Rulebook with Brando, whatever we decide to call this episode, it's obviously about rules and things that happen in tournaments and also cash games, in poker in general, that are different. And I think the two major things that you need to think about are this. One, it's your responsibility as a player. Know the rules a little bit better. Ask questions if you don't know, and stop the hands before they are done, because you cannot undo something when it's already been run out. It's very difficult to be like, well, I don't like this happened. And when you've already seen the river and the cards are on the table, like at that point, you can't go, well, hang on a second. I want to back up to this previous moment. We're done.
So I do have a backup moment for you really quick.
Great.
I just thought of this.
Just throw that in there.
Well, it'll be super quick. And this is like one of the instances where I would say
you could back it up.
You can back it up, because really all that happened, it was the early bird, and we'll just say the blinds were 150, 300, and then the guy went all in for 900. And don't think about.
I got you. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I'm just making up a scenario, but this is basically what happened. And then a guy tried to call the 900, but accidentally made it 1400. Okay, which is more than half of a raise, and 3 to 9 is 6, so then 6 more on 9 is 15.
And maybe he was putting in the 14 thinking he would get a nickel back rather than try whatever on his chain.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think that's kind of what it was.
Probably what it was.
Or the chip slipped out or whatever.
Doesn't matter.
The guy meant to call 900, but ended up putting out 14, which
obviously.
In 5 chips. Yeah, it was
multiple chips. Go ahead.
So so now it goes 14. Then it goes call.
The 14s?
14. Then the next guy goes, the next guy goes, I don't.
No.
The next guy goes, I don't think 14's a legal race. So then I get called over right now.
This is after multiple people have already called, and then somebody finally stops the train and goes, oh, wait, hold on a second. I think this is wrong.
So it went blinds 300, all in for 9, accidental 14.
Correct.
Which needs to be rounded up to 15, but never was.
Right.
Call 14. Then the next guy's like,
fuck? I think this
next
is
guy's
wrong.
like, hold on. Next guy's like, hold on.
So he did the right thing. He stopped. He stopped the train. You got to stop. Stop. Let's call the floor before it gets any worse. That, I would say, my first observation, kudos to that gentleman or lady who just goes, okay, hang on a second, everybody. We need to stop. All right, go ahead. What happened? You get called over. What happens?
So obviously that 14, I was like, well, we're going to start there. That 14's not allowed. So that's got to be 15, which is a min raise. And then I just made the two 14s. It ended up being 100 chips, so it was less.
It's
relevant,
less
but
detrimental.
It could
have been way worse,
larger than that.
Yeah.
So where it was just over half, and then
lines are 30,000, 60,000. That's a much bigger fuck up. But go ahead.
Correct. Or it was less than 100 away from the race. So then I just backed it up and was like, all right, it's going 1,500, call 15, call 15.
Now it's on your action.
Right, because those two people that voluntarily put in 14, they voluntarily called a raise.
Right.
Like, really, one of them should know that
they signed their deal. Like, their deal's over with. Yeah.
So now I'm editing the number, but they're still bound to call that additional number. So that's a way where backing up, it got stopped early. It's pretty clear and cut that the other two 14s
it's
voluntarily put calls in.
Right.
They just put calls of an ineligible amount.
That kind of situation, there's far less people who are pissed, right? Like, nobody's really going to be upset with that. Maybe
they all just flipped in the hundreds.
Just like, I get it. Like, okay,
the only guy that's pissed is the guy that mistakenly bet 14.
And really, he only lost 500. So, like,
600, rounded up to be 600, but yeah.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Rounded up to 600. So, if that's the worst case scenario, then that's pretty good.
That's 2 big blinds. Yeah.
It's a pretty good.
2 big blind misclicks are never ones to sweat over.
And again, it's the motto. It's the lesson of the day. It's your responsibility, sir. I get it. You didn't mean to do that, but you did it. It's a rule. You're gonna have to.
You got that information and you did it.
Make sure
you listen to somebody.
Learn a lesson. That's it. Sometimes you do, and sometimes you don't. That's going to do it for this episode of Beyond the Rulebook. We want to thank everybody for listening. Make sure you subscribe to us on Apple Podcast or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, because you can get the overlay anywhere on the planet. I know some of you are still listening on your desktop by going to the actual website and clicking play on it, which is perfectly fine, but sometimes it's nice to go on a walk and listen to Brandon and I argue about poker. It's super fun.
That's exactly what I listen to on my walks.
Absolutely. I listen to crazy podcasts typically about zombies, but that's just me. Maybe we should do like a zombie poker podcast, because it's like the only stuff I have any knowledge about is poker and then zombies, because I've listened to a lot of zombie apocalypse type stuff. I feel like I have like a 80% chance I survive of a zombie apocalypse. What do you give your odds on the zombie apocalypse?
If I make it to my parents' house and can sit on the roof with all those guns, I feel like I'm pretty good. But
God bless your dad and his wonderful views of life.
But if I don't make it over to my parents' house, I'm probably screwed.
That's good. See, again, and all that remains with is what, Brando? It's your responsibility to save yourself in a zombie apocalypse. It's your job to save yourself during a poker tournament. Nobody else is going to help you. You have to rely on yourself. It's the best part about poker, and sometimes the worst part about poker.
Remember, in a nuclear war, you just got to make it to DePage Airport. The plane holds 10.
First 10.
You got to be first 10.
First 10.
Well, really,
you heard it here.
I'm in there.
You heard it here first, folks. First 10 who can get to the DuPage Airport. I live close to DuPage Airport, so right. I got a good chance.
Screwed.
I got a fast car, and I can get there. It's just, do I go back to my family?
The air?
I don't know.
Get up in the air and over to Europe or down to an island, or
we got a much better chance.
We can get out of here.
Yeah, because I think Fermilab's like one of the top spots they bomb first, so we all screwed on that.
We're done.
Not even Chicago, just Fermilab. I don't even know what they do at Fermilab. Anyways, thanks for listening to the Top Dad podcast. Good, fuck me. Start over. Thanks for listening to the overlay. Okay, hold on. I'll get it. Thanks for listening to The Overlay, everybody, a podcast about poker where Ken mistakenly name drops his other podcast about parenting and then gives you zombie apocalypse tips on how to get out in case of a nuclear war. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll catch you next time.
Farewell.
Bye.